So welcome. Thank you for coming out on this cold night. I appreciate it. I know most of us would rather be on the couch in our PJs, snuggled up, but it's important to be out here getting this information for your juniors. It's that time of year. So welcome. And I want to introduce myself and the department, and then we're going to talk about college admissions. My name is Kristen Ferrioli. I'm the Director of Guidance. And I have your child if your last name begins with P through Z. So our business cards are down here, so when you leave tonight, you can take one of our business cards if you want our contact information. At the podium is Miss Sweeney. She has your child if your last name is H through O. And in front here, I have Miss McGinnis. And she has your child if your last name is A through G. And this year, we're lucky to have an intern with us. Her name is Taylor Ward. Some of you may already know her. Yay, Taylor. She's with us all year, and she's been working closely with us and meets with all of the students as needed and is learning all of the functions of the guidance department. So, so what I wanted to first point out is that we have some materials for you. If you haven't taken them, you can come down and grab them. So everybody has a blue folder. That blue folder is the exact same blue folder that will be given out to all of the juniors, all of the students next week. So the guidance department will be pulling students, or actually going into their history classrooms and meeting with every junior in a group and doing a similar presentation. Ours is going to be a little more hands-on. We will get more into how to do a college search and talk more about actually getting it done. But what you have is all of the materials that will guide you through the process and answer most of the questions that you may have. So go through it and know that your child will also come home with the same folder. I've also given you a packet of our PowerPoint that we're going to have tonight with room to take notes, so you can make notes, write down, jot down any questions. Even if you have questions later or questions tomorrow, you can email us or call us, so don't hesitate to do that. But so the PowerPoint, all of the slides are in this packet. And then we also have a form there just at the end of the evening. If you could just fill it out, it's just a survey, just to help us, improve upon anything we need to improve upon, or tell us how great we are. Just if you fill that out, you just leave it on the counter when you leave. So, so if you need any of the materials, you can come grab them at the end, or most of you, I think, already took them on your way up the stairs. So. Okay, so I just want to point out that we have a lot of ways that we are going to provide information to students and parents. Guidance has a page on the school district webpage, so the link is there. We also have a Twitter account, and new this year is a Facebook page. So if you can look for the Facebook page, I think most parents use Facebook over Twitter. I know as a parent of high schoolers I do, but I still have to use Twitter because they make me at my kids' school. But I prefer Facebook as well. I know it's more parent-friendly. So we do have a Facebook page as well. So we will also post things in the announcements through the Constant Contact, so you can log in. Most of you probably, because you know about this night, you have Constant Contact. But if you don't, you can access it through the abingtonps.org and join the mailing list for Constant Contact. You'll get all of the morning announcements sent to your email, so it's a great way to keep in touch. Okay? So the college admissions process, it can be very overwhelming. Some of you, this is your first time. Some of you, you have older children that you've done the process, but it's always good to get a refresher. Let us help you. We do this all the time. So we can answer your questions, we can help guide you, we can help bridge that communication gap between you and your children, since they're not talking to you or telling you anything. So please feel free to give us a call or shoot us an email, and we will be happy to help you through the process. We also have evening hours in the guidance office once a month. The guidance office is open till 6 or 7 o'clock, depending on what our appointments are. So if you work and are unable to meet with us during the school day, please just call the office and we'll let you know when we are, because we rotate days that we're in the evening. So we'll let you know if we're in an evening appointment. We can meet with you after work if that's better for you. Okay, so getting right into it. There are different types of colleges. We have liberal arts colleges. Those are typically four-year colleges. Specialized colleges like business schools, engineering schools, schools that have a religious affiliation, single-sex colleges, military academies, Private versus public schools, so those are, public schools are state funded, private schools are not. So there's a lot of different types of schools, but most kids are going to figure it's either a 4-year school or a 2-year school or a trade school. Those are my options. So, but within the 4-year school bachelor's degree program, there are so many different types of colleges you can go to. So see, these are some of the terms you'll see. And then there are different admission factors. So there's different ways that colleges are going to look at students. The more selective the school, the more selective they are with some of these criteria. But for the most part, and what we try to advise students with, is your grades are your most important thing. And not always your GPA. Your GPA is a strong factor, but how you do in the classes you take is a good indicator of how you'll perform in college. So we always stress, doesn't matter if you're an AP class, an honors class, a college prep class, if you have solid grades, colleges would like to see that. Class rank is secondary. It's becoming less important for a lot of colleges. Your rigor of your program, so when we tell students when they're choosing their classes, it's good to get A's and B's to go to college, but we don't want you to take all lower level classes because we want you to still have that rigor. If you are able to do a higher level and perform an A or B at a higher level, that's where we want you to be. Some colleges will ask for SAT tests, so the SAT reasoning test or subject test. Those tests can be optional now at a lot of colleges. So students are going to be told to look up the requirements for their colleges because there are some colleges that now don't require those SATs. Many colleges, it's happening all over now throughout the country that every year more and more schools are going SAT optional. So the grades become that much more important. The SAT and the subject tests are different. The SAT is the verbal and the math test that is required by most colleges who do ask for it. The subject tests are very specific subjects that are only asked for a highly selective college. Okay, so not every school is going to ask for a subject test. Most schools that do want testing will ask for an SAT reasoning test. The ACT is also a standardized test that you may see or your student may choose to take. It's also, basically it's used just like the SAT is for admission. Some colleges will look for special talents, athletic talents, music talents. Maybe they're looking for somebody for their badminton team, so they're looking for anything special that a student might have. Colleges are most colleges are going to require an essay. The student will have to write an essay as part of their application. Most schools will require at least one letter of recommendation. So students think they have to ask 3 or 4 people. They don't. And most students should not need to ask anybody outside of school. If they're an athlete, they may want to ask a coach if they're being recruited, but mostly it's an academic teacher that colleges want to hear from. They also would like to see some extracurricular activities. Doesn't mean that your child has to join every single club this year to look good to a college. What do they sink their teeth into? They can have 1 or 2 sports that they like to do. They could have an activity outside of school. They could do something affiliated with a church or another club. So just something that shows that they do something outside of school and makes them more well-rounded. And then there's the interview. Not every school is going to look for an interview, but some do. Some students we recommend do an interview if maybe it might help their chances to get into a school that might be a little above their reach. So. Okay, the Mass State College and University admission standards. So our state colleges and universities, that's your Bridgewater State, Westfield State, all of the UMasses, they have standards and they have to abide by an auditing system. So they have a scale and certain standards that students have to meet to be admitted. The minimum GPA, and most people are surprised by this, for the state schools is a 3.0. If the student does not have a 3.0, there is a sliding scale for those SATs. So that means the SATs would be required for those schools if you don't have a 3.0. That information is in your packet, by the way, so you can refer to that. Most 4-year colleges, just like the state schools, do require 4 years of English, 4 years of math, including a math in your senior year, 3 sciences, 2 social studies, including 1 U.S. history, 2 foreign languages, and then some electives. So we make sure that when your child graduates, they have the requirements they need for just about every 4-year college, okay? So you do still want to do some research, though, in this junior year, because if your child is looking at a more selective college, some of these courses, some of these subject areas you might see that maybe a 3rd year of a foreign language is recommended. well then it's good to take that third year of a language, you know, so, or a third year of a science is recommended. So you want to see what's required and also what's recommended. If you can take and succeed at a recommended level, you know, you should take it. It always looks better to a college if you take that extra bump. And then also, the state schools will require those SAT scores if you fall below a 3.0. Most of the state schools, if your child has a 3.0 or above, those SAT scores become optional. So we have students now that have above a 3.0 that are not needing to send their SAT scores because they're meeting that minimum GPA requirement. Private schools are different, but this is our state schools. So here's just some examples of some data from some of our in-state schools. Even though they follow mostly the same guidelines from the state, you can see there's some variables with what kind of profile a student would have that they would accept. So if we look at UMass Amherst, this is our largest state university, and it's our most selective state university as well. So you can see that last year's applicant pool, there were almost 42,000 applicants for a class, a freshman class of just over 5,000. So that's a pretty, you know, you have a lot of applications, they're reading a lot of applications, so they're not looking for 3 letters of recommendation. They don't have time to read all that. They want the common application with 1 letter and just give us what we need. We're going to scan it. We're going to look for a GPA, your SAT scores. They don't have a lot of time to look for those extra things. So that's why they become so selective, because they just have so many to look through. The average GPA is a 3.5. Do we have students that don't have a 3.5 get in? Absolutely, we do. But it's still pretty rigorous to try to get into UMass, especially certain majors. Business is tough to get into, as well as nursing. So you want to make sure that you know what the requirements are before you're trying to get into these schools. Whereas you can see that UMass Dartmouth, only 8,000 applicants for a class of only 2,000. Still a pretty solid GPA, but you can see that there's different ranges. Bridgewater State, average GPA is a 3.1, 3.2. Salem State, average is about 3.3. Westfield's about a 3.0. So there are some variables even within our state school system. Nursing, just so you know, anybody that's interested in nursing, many of those requirements are going to be different. The GPA will be higher and the SAT scores will be higher. Nursing students have a tougher time getting into schools because there's so few spots with a lot of the programs. I think one year, I remember hearing that UMass Amherst, so you can see how many applications they get. In one particular year, they accepted 36 students into the nursing program. That's how many seats they had. There's just because most nurses are working in the field, they don't have a lot of nursing professors, and they don't have a lot of spots in some of their. So if you're interested in nursing, you really want to visit schools and really find out what kind of program they run, how many seats they have, what kind of clinicals they do, and get a lot of that information. So.
This has information on nursing too.
What?
This one has information on nursing too.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, the Addison Nursing Home, okay. So this is some information now about some private or state colleges that are out of state. So for example, UNH is a state school, but it's out of Massachusetts, so you have to meet different standards. Some state schools will give priority to their own in-state students. So UNH, almost 20,000 applicants for a class of 3,000, but nursing, SAT has to have a 1,300 minimum, where the average SAT for most students was 1,170. So you can see where some of the standards are different. I can see there's a difference in the GPA of a 3.5 to a 3.7. Curry College, not as selective. You can see it's a lower range for the SAT score. The average GPA was just under a 3.0, whereas Stonehill, a little more selective. These are both private schools, but one is more selective than the other. Stonehill is more selective with an average GPA of about 3.5. Northeastern, pretty selective. Average GPA is about a 4.0. 62,000 applications. Is it Northeastern that's sending kids away their freshman year? So Northeastern, they are accepting so many students that they are recommending or asking for volunteers, freshman students, to spend their very first semester abroad because they don't have enough housing. So it's a new thing. I personally would say no, I don't want to send my kid away, their very first experience for college, but some are excited about that opportunity to jet set right away. But yeah, Northeastern, it happened a couple of years ago. It was kind of like we want to take these kids in, but we have nowhere to put them. So they kind of said, well, you can go away. Now it's like more of a formalized program where you can choose. But that's an offer from Northeastern to go away your first your first day of school. And URI, 21,000 applicants for a class of 3,000. Average SAT is a total of about 1190. Average GPA is about 3.5. So you can see the GPAs are pretty high. Yes?
The Northeastern University, it says 62,000 applications for a class of 2,800. 19% acceptance rate, that's more like 4.5%. What does that mean?
So, yeah, so this is just the freshman class, so there's other factors that go into that acceptance rate. So that's the data that they gave us, that they have about a 19% acceptance rate. Not everybody says yes to the acceptance. So they may have accepted more, but that they filled 2,800 spots. That's the seated class. So they may have accepted more than that. They may have accepted, 5,000, but only 28,000 said yes to the acceptance. So that's the acceptance rate is based on how many they actually accept, not how many they seat in the class. Okay, so there are different applications that you are going to find that you'll fill out. Most colleges now, luckily, subscribe to the Common Application. We will work on the Common Application with all of the students at the beginning of their senior year. You can create a Common App if you'd like, but if you want to hold off and not worry about it, we'll do it with them in September. After they've done some research and then they know they might need the Common App, we create the account with them. But if they create it ahead of time, it's fine. It can roll over the summer. But the Common Application is one that's used by hundreds of colleges. Basically, if you have multiple colleges that subscribe to the Common App, it will save you time. It takes time to fill it out in the beginning to front-end it, but you can send the same application to multiple schools. So if your student has 6 schools that use the Common App, you're going to fill that out one time. In the application itself, or on the website itself, you're going to load all of the schools that you're listing. So Northeastern, and Curry, and Stonehill, Bridgewater State. And then you'll just have to click and submit, click and submit, click and submit 6 times. So it's 6 different submissions, but it's one body application, same essay, same information, and then you just send it off to the different schools, to the different tabs. So it makes it easier. All of your applications will have application fees, unless your child used a fee waiver. Students that take the SATs with a fee waiver are eligible for application fee waivers. So we work with students. If they're on free and reduced lunch, we will meet with them and let them know about the fee waiver system. Most importantly, we stress this with the students, you've got to do research because you've got to know your school's deadlines. The deadlines are going to drive when things need to get done. So if my deadline is early action November 1st, I really got to hustle over the summer and make some decisions so I can come back to school in September and get ready to start filling out applications, because that November 1st deadline comes very quickly. If my deadline's January 1st, I have a little more time. But most students really are looking to apply in November. That's kind of the trend, is students will apply November 1st, November 15th. Those are your early action deadlines. Sometimes they're December 1st or December 15th, but most are November or December 1st. So we meet with the seniors. We'll do this, with them again, your children again. About the 2nd or 3rd week of September, we go into their English classes to get the ball rolling for applications. So we're hoping that by the time they come back to us in the fall, they have a sense of what they want in a college. They've looked at some colleges, they've visited some colleges, so they know some of their deadlines to make some decisions about when they have to get going. Students that don't know their deadlines will say, well, when should I ask my teachers for a letter of recommendation? Well, when's your deadline? When should I start filling out my application? When's your deadline? So the answer is what your deadline is. That prompts when you should be filling things out. The transcript is required by colleges. That is sent through the guidance office. So we have a process that when the students decide where they're going to apply, they let us know. And then we are able to then send that transcript out to the colleges once we do a release with them. So that comes later in the process. The letters of recommendation, the teacher or the counselor or both, those letters of recommendation, those are also sent from the guidance office. Students will not see those. Some teachers might give students a copy, but most of the time the teachers will write the letter. They will upload it into our Naviance program, which we'll talk about later tonight. And those are held just in waiting until the student decides which schools need which letters. So if a student decides that I need a letter from Mrs. Smith and it needs to go to Northeastern, we'll hold on to it, and then as soon as they're ready to apply, we can release it to that school. So the transcript and teacher recommendations are sent by guidance. The SAT scores, if they're required, those are sent from the student. So your student will register for their SATs on the College Board website. And then when those scores are available, when they're ready to send them to the colleges, they'll release them through the College Board website. So they go through the testing center. They don't go on the transcript, and they're not sent by us. So they go through the student's account. And if there's any questions, just jump in. I don't mind pausing or stopping. I'd like to take care of any questions. Okay, so again, the types of applications you're going to see is the common application, and that's the link, commonapp.org for the common application. Again, most colleges will use that. But if they don't subscribe to it, then you would go to the school specifically, log into their website, and click on admissions or apply. And just a little note here, you should keep track of any usernames and passwords that you create. I caution, if you are helping your child by signing up for the Common App for them or signing up for a college application, please write down the exact username and password you use, because we will try to work with those students sometimes and troubleshoot with them in our offices, because now they have laptops, so we can kind of work with them. If they don't know their username and password, they can't get in. So great if you want to help them, but make sure they haven't already created one too, and then you create a second one. That also causes problems. So talk about who's going to create the username and password, and then just use the same one for both of you. Okay, admissions options. So when a student applies, they're going to be asked, what type of application are you using? So these are the types of options that you have when you apply. So there's restrictive and non-restrictive. So there's restrictive means there's rules around it, non-restrictive means it's more open. So regular decision is basically a deadline that's non-binding. It's going to be later in the season, usually January 1st or later. Students will apply by a certain date, and then the decision will be rendered either on a specific date or on a rolling basis as the school makes their decisions. So that's regular decision. It's usually later, and it's usually later in the season. Your state schools, your regular decisions are usually going to be February or March. Rolling admissions is colleges will review. They don't really have a set deadline, but colleges will just start taking applications as they get them in. They'll start reviewing, and then they'll start rendering decisions as they get them. So it's kind of like a first come, first served process. So rolling is nice for students that maybe don't know what they want to do yet, haven't made decisions yet. It gives them a little more time to kind of get going. But it also is good to apply early with rolling, because then you get some notification sooner. Early action is non-binding in that you still have until May 1st to make your choice, to say, I'm coming to your college, thank you for your acceptance, I accept your acceptance. Early action is where students will apply early, and that's going to be that November or December deadline. It's the process of applying early, but still having till May 1st to make your choice. It gives you the most flexibility. It gives a lot of students a peace of mind because they can get things done. I find that our students, when they apply early, you know, it's very stressful, October, November, and I got to make decisions and I got to get this done. But then once they do it, they're like, oh, and then they can enjoy the holidays, and it's more relaxing. And they're not stressing over, I still haven't done this yet. But they still have, they can apply to a bunch of schools, they still have until May 1st to make their final choice. They don't have to give them an answer. Whereas early decision is binding. So early decision is, we caution people to really look at early decision. Early decision is for the early deadline, November 1st, December 1st. But if you're accepted, you are bound to go there. So it's basically putting all your eggs in one basket, I guess is the best way to describe it. Most colleges expect that if you apply to us early decision and we accept you, that any other applications you've sent out there, you're going to withdraw because you're going to come. So I caution you only that it's because it's so early in the season, you may not know your financial aid package yet. You may not know, you may not have checked out some other schools, and all of a sudden you find out there's another option, and now you've already kind of said yes to them. So, you know, there's no early decision police out there, but I guess there's schools that kind of talk to each other, and they know, like, oh, we have a lot of students that are applying early decision. They tend to like kind of talk. The admissions people talk to each other, so it's more of like a contract you make with the school that says, yes, I will. If you accept me, I'm coming. So these are for the kids that say, you know, I've always wanted to go to BC. My dad went to BC. My grandpa went to BC. If I get into BC, I'm definitely going there. I'm going to play football there. You know, I'm going early decision. I don't need to know about anybody else. I can afford it. I want to go there. I can get in. Early decision's great for that. But early action, I think, is a better option to give you more flexibility. And then we don't really see a lot of this restrictive early action where students can apply. but they may be restricted from applying to other schools early action. We don't see a lot of that in the schools that our students apply to. It may be possibly with schools in other parts of the country, but most of our students choose early action or regular rolling admissions. So, questions about that? So early is early. I mean, it seems like it's far away, but November 1st comes really fast for kids. When we get to them in September, all of a sudden our follow-up meeting is, October, and then they got to be ready to apply pretty soon because November 1st is rolling right along. So again, these are your dates: early action, early decision. Usually November 1st, December 1st. Early action and early decision, if it is November 1st, your first quarter grades are not going to be on the transcript, but if they're required, we will send a second transcript once those come out. They usually come out the second week of November. Regular deadlines and rolling admissions, usually the first quarter grades will be showing on that transcript, sometimes mid-year grades if it's after mid-January. So most of the time, colleges will see the grades that are on the transcript from freshman, sophomore, and junior year fully, and then those first term senior grades. We ask students to give their guidance counselor at least a couple weeks notice of where they're applying, just so we can get all the paperwork ready, or advise them if something's missing, or make sure that they're all ready to go so that by the time those deadlines come. We don't like students to apply the night before a deadline, so if the deadline's November 1st, we don't want you up till at midnight trying to send those applications on October 31st. We find that it usually causes problems because the internet slows down, or something doesn't send, or there's a send fail. So we try to get kids to get things done at least a couple weeks before those deadlines hit. Okay, real quickly, recommendations, teacher recommendations. Students should think about a teacher that they want to ask for a letter of recommendation. How many letters do you need? Usually it's spelled out by the college. Most colleges don't need more than one. There are a few that might want two teacher letters of recommendation. Some will ask for just 2 letters. It could be a teacher and their guidance counselor. So again, when you're looking at colleges, look at those requirements, the deadline, and do they require SATs, and do they require letters of recommendation. So the college websites will tell you that information. So it's very easy if you go to the college website, look at admissions, most of that's spelled right out. Choose wisely. Most colleges want an academic subject area. So if you're an artist, you may want your art teacher to write a letter, but if you're going for just a liberal arts major, a business major or something, you want an academic teacher. You want somebody that knows you well, that you work well for in the class, somebody that you have a good relationship with, and colleges prefer a teacher that has a student in their junior or senior year. And even better if that child had that teacher also in their freshman year. But you don't want to be a senior asking a teacher that only knew you freshman year and hasn't seen you since. It's not a good picture of who you are to a college. You were a very different person your freshman year than you are your senior year. So we want kids to ask a teacher in their later years of high school. We will have students fill out an activity sheet. That's what they'll provide to the teachers. It basically spells out all their activities that they've done in school, but it also gives them the teachers information about any jobs they've had outside of school or other clubs or activities. And we also ask questions, name 3 words to describe yourself, or any obstacles you've had to overcome. It's optional, whatever they want to answer on this form, and they give that to the teacher so the teacher can use some of that information to write the letter. Supplemental recommendations are okay. Like I said, but colleges prefer that they come from teachers in our building and that they meet the application requirements. Okay, college visit. We cannot stress enough how important the college visit is. Using the college visit days that we provide students, so students are given 5 college visit days. So I know many of you probably are familiar, we have an attendance policy. But those 5 days are excused. All you have to do is take your child to a college and visit it, and then bring something back from admissions, because usually you check into admissions when you do a visit. Bring anything back, any materials from the college, bring it to the office, it becomes an excused absence. Students get 5 to use between their junior and senior year. So you can use 3 now, 2 next year. You can use 2 now, 3 next year. You split them up however you want, but they get 5. So we encourage you to take your children to visit. You can go during February vacation, April vacation, because colleges are in session. Kids are on campus. It's a great time to go. If you go during the summer, it's going to be a quieter campus, but they still have tours and they still have things for parents to see. Open houses are great because they then maybe offer a seminar on financial aid. They might offer a seminar on certain majors. But visits are great. It's going to make or break a decision for most of you, for most of the students. They can get that vibe of the college. We can do all the research we want. We can tell you what their average GPA is or what the campus looks like, but that feel and that vibe is what you're going to get from that visit. Take a look at the college websites, research them before you visit, make some notes of what you're seeing on the website, and then set up the tour. You just do that. Most of them are done online now. You click on admissions or apply or visit on the school websites, and usually there's a calendar, and you can just click on it, fill in the fields, and set up your visit that way. It will help you see what you like in a school or don't like in a school. You can sign up for tours, open houses, info sessions. You can eat in the cafeteria, you can talk to students, you can pick up materials, you can kind of see what's happening, what the pulse of the campus has, what kind of nightlife they have, what kind of clubs they have, what's on the bulletin boards. You can see, do students stay on campus on weekends? Do they go home? Things like that. But again, students are allowed 5 days total during their junior, senior years. They just have to bring documentation. If a student, we have students who maybe take a college visit and they come back after the school day is ended. So let's say they don't get back till 2:30 or 3 and they might have a game or a practice. They can bring that note to their coach. The coaches know our policy. So if they bring the note to the coach, then they can just show the coach, no, I was at a college, and they'll say, okay, you're eligible to play. Just give the note to the office the next morning. So a lot of students have run into that, and that's a big question. So most students wish they had visited more colleges or started sooner. So that's the feedback we've gotten. So take our advice and take visits as much as you can. Student athletes, students who wish to compete in college. If they are looking at a Division I or a Division II college, they also need to register through the NCAA clearinghouse. And if students let us know that, we'll walk them through that process. It basically is just providing the NCAA clearinghouse the transcript to show that they meet the certain GPA requirements for Division I or Division II colleges. Athletes should also contact the athletic department as well as admissions if they are interested in playing, even if it's a Division III school. The college may be able to send someone out to kind of scout your child or to take a look at them play if they're in a local area and they're nearby. The GPA requirement for Division I core courses is a 2.3. So they have their scale that they use. They take the grades, they take the core courses, and they average it out. And just, remember, we're a small high school, so you have to be realistic. If you're looking at a Division I school, we do have students that have gone and played in Division I sports, but it's tough. It's tough to get admitted. It's tough to make teams in Division I. So even though you might be a top athlete here at Abington High School, we're a very small school, and the competition is very great out there when you get at the college level. But students still must meet the school admissions. Just because you're a strong athlete doesn't mean you get any special preference. So just make sure that they remember that. Okay, financial aid. We're not going to talk a lot about financial aid, but this is just kind of an overview of what some of the terms are and what to look for. So financial aid is mostly done through the FAFSA. The FAFSA is the federal form for student assistance. And that can be submitted anytime after October 1st. So we will have another seminar for you for the senior parents, because you will become senior parents in the fall, the first week of October. So we will have another, just for financial aid, because it's another whole topic. But the FAFSA is the FAFSA.ed.gov is the website. I wouldn't go create one yet, I would wait. But if you want information, you can go to their website and start to look at the terms and what the process is for the financial aid. Some colleges will also require the CSS profile. That's through the College Board website. It's not required by every school, but it's required by some private schools. So you would just have to see if the colleges that your child is interested in requires that. You're not going to just fill that out just to have it. Like I said, we have a financial aid workshop coming in the fall. And then there's also scholarships, local and regional scholarships that we will talk about with our students, but most of them will be in the senior year. So most of the scholarships and most of the free money you're going to get will come through the colleges as well. All right, so junior year, the expectations and recommendations. So we tell students, just do your best in school. Make your schoolwork a priority. This is the last full year of grades you will have to show for college. It's the last full set of grades you will have to affect your GPA. A lot of kids are hoping that, you know, well, and then senior year, I'll do better then. The kids are gonna apply only by first term. It's not enough to change that GPA. So the GPA pretty much at the end of junior year is what it's going to be when they apply. So you just wanna make sure that they put like the best push at the end of their junior year. Really research college information, really know those requirements, get on their websites. The websites are great, they're full of information, so really take a look at the websites. Even if you're not sure, just start looking at Bridgewater State, just start looking at Stonehill, start looking at Curry, look at some area schools just to get a feel for what the websites are look like, what information is on them. Students should develop some sort of a list. We say 10 to 15 schools, but some students have 3 or 4, and that's okay. There's no set number. We like students to apply to at least 3, and anything more than 10, you're going to have trouble making decisions later. It's tough to visit that many schools and come up with 10 or 15 schools that you really want to apply to. But we find the average is like 3 to 8 schools that kids will apply to. But there really is no set number, so don't be afraid if you have less or more than that. Again, visit college campuses. And again, February and April vacation are great times to visit because schools are in session and there's more free time to get things done. Know what the requirements are as far as standardized tests, because most will want the SAT, but some will require those subject tests. Like I said, more selective colleges will. And also some are going optional, and that list is changing all the time. So we might, right now, if you ask me a college if they require them, I might say yes, but by the fall they might change their mind and go optional. So those things are changing pretty regularly. And then we want your students to make appointments with us. We will go into the classroom. Like I said, we go into the classroom with the juniors next week. We are going to follow up with them again in May, get into the classroom again. In between that, we'll call them down, but we want them to come. We want them to say, all right, hey, can we just talk about this? I was on this website, this is what I saw, or I visited a school, I want to tell you what I liked about it. The more we get to talk to your children and get inside their head, the more we can help them. But, you know, we don't want to call them down every week because they might not be ready with new information that week. So we look for them to come down and talk to us. So, and like I said, we offer evening appointments, so if you want to come in during the evening, if you come in during the school day, that's fine too. But you can come in with or without your child. We'll work with you at any time that you need us. So just contact the guidance office and we can set that up for you. So during the summer, between the junior and senior year, if I didn't say before, visit colleges. Best way to learn about them is to kind of walk around, get a feel, how far from home are they. It's a big commitment, it's a lot of money, so you want to make sure you're making the best choice. I tell students, you know, you're not going to buy a car without driving it first, you wouldn't, you know, buy a house without walking through it first, so, you know, walking on a campus is kind of like kicking the tires, so. So there's valuable information, and a lot of times families will tell us information after they've gone on a visit. Did you know that we don't have all that information. We visit schools, we go to seminars, we have different groups that we belong to that we hear information about colleges, but we haven't visited every college ourselves. So you might get more information out of a college that we could even provide. It's little tips. So it's great for you to visit those schools. And then looking ahead to senior year, so like I said, you all have this blue folder. The blue folder is the junior year folder, and every student will receive that same folder next week. Senior year, the famous green folder, we give those out to seniors. That will have more information about the applications and the application process and what goes into the application. So this is about prepping for college searching, and the green folder will have the application process. We will work in groups with the seniors to create a common app account, or to work with any of them on their applications, and also to get their information into their Naviance account, which tonight we're going to show you the features of that Naviance account. It's college search and college planning. It's a great program that we have here in the guidance office. Students should try to have a list of schools by September. Again, if you visit or start to research some schools, just have a sense of some schools that they might be interested in. It would be great if they come prepared with at least a few. Then we can help expand or reduce that list with them. Students should plan to take, if they need to, their SATs this year, their junior year, and the information is in your packet. We'll go over that as well. But just they should have a set of scores for their junior year, and then they can take them one more time in the fall of their senior year. They come up pretty early. For those early action deadlines, there is a test early in August and October, so they want to start planning those tests so that they have sets of scores if needed. And applications during the senior year, that's when we fill them out and submit them. So it's all about the applications in the fall. So try to do the research and the planning now. Okay, that was a lot. So we're going to talk about now standardized testing and SATs, and then after that, the third part is the Naviance program. But are there any questions about applications, deadlines, college search, general information? Yes?
Quick question. You talked a lot with the nursing. I'm thinking of my younger daughter. Do you find that there's a lot of early decisions with nursing? Do you find that
It's more early action. Most nursing programs, even if the school doesn't require early action, the nursing programs require it. So be cautious of that. Anybody that's interested in nursing, you'll find there may be on the website, it would specifically say, you know, our early action deadline is November 15th. It's required for nursing students, like in order to get that. Yeah.
Do you recommend that those that are interested in nursing but may not get into it go into biology majors? Because, you know, a lot of students say a lot of nursing programs and seats open up.
So it depends on the schools. I think we have found just in going to information sessions that it's tough to transfer into a nursing program in the sophomore year. It's better to try to get into a nursing program off the bat because there's not a lot of movement. It's tough to transfer. So I would say it's probably not, if you're not going to get into nursing, you may want to consider another health field. Do you know what I mean? And then maybe look at getting into nursing some other way,
Right.
but not into a 4-year nursing program right away. It's tough to get into that bachelor program, not as a freshman.
Find out what your program would take as prereqs and maybe do them at a level.
Yep. So we have students that maybe were interested in nursing and didn't have a strong enough grade in biology in high school. So they've gone to Lake Massasoit to take over the summer to get a biology class to get that B so that the school would accept them. And also look at, not to be stuck on nursing, but we find that there's the most glitches with that. We've had kids who go to a school, get as a nursing student, but then once they're there, find out that, oh, I'm not really a nursing student right now, I have to pass these classes, then get into the nursing, and then they don't. So you really want to really check with the schools and really look at am I in nursing once I walk in the door in September, or do I have to take this, sequence of courses, get certain grades, and then do I have to kind of apply to nursing in sophomore year, even though you're applying for nursing. So it's kind of you want to really know what you're walking into.
Does Abington High School have a career day? So someone that is interested in the health field, they might not get into nursing, but something that might inspire them to try.
We do not, but there's talks of trying to create one at some point, yeah. So, we do not have a career day. We do. Yeah, some of the area high schools do them. We do take the kids to a college fair, and so they can talk to the colleges, and we tell them, if you're interested in nursing, or whatever major, talk about that with the, what other things do you have? If I don't get into nursing, what would I do? If I
just
can't.
feel like they don't know.
They don't know. I know. It's tough. There's so many careers out there that you don't even know what you don't know. There's so many careers out there that are options. So yeah.
Does the financial aid package come with the early action or early decision, or are those just decisions of acceptance and financial aid package comes later?
If your deadline is November 1st, it depends on when you get your FAFSA done. If you get it done on October 2nd and submit it to the colleges right away, they may have a sense of what the financial award would be, but usually comes after. If you're applying early action, your acceptance letter would come first, and then once they process the data from the financial aid information, then they can provide that information. Yeah.
Going back to the career day suggestion, is
Yeah.
there a way that, is there anything that any tools that they can utilize to help show them what is available in
Yes.
certain fields?
Yes, you segue. We will talk about the Naviance program,
Okay.
because we did that with them as sophomores, so
Okay.
your children probably don't remember doing it.
Oh.
We did it with them in the spring last year. When we meet with them, we'll remind them of their little, we did a career interest survey, and in the Naviance program, we set them up last year with accounts, and they did like a resume, and we kind of worked on that.
Okay.
But again, guidance only gets in there one period. So then we try to follow up with them and just have more conversations about that.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have a guidance class where we get to really work on a lot of this stuff, you know, so.
That would be a good thing.
It would be a good thing, yeah. The school day doesn't provide us with
Like
that
after
time.
school day, maybe?
Great question. Any other questions? Okay, so Ms. McGinnis is going to talk about SATs and testing.
Obviously, the most exciting part of the program is the standardized testing. Probably the biggest test that your students will be taking is the SAT. There are other ones that I'll be going into, but the SAT is based on is evidence-based reading and math. The scale for each of them is 200 to 800, with a combined score total could be up to 1,600. So it has changed in recent years. If you've had students that have graduated in past years, it was critical reading and math, and they have changed it to evidence-based reading in writing and math. There's also an essay component to the SAT. That is an option that you can take while you're registering. It also obviously adds more time to taking the SATs. Because this is, I think, maybe the second or third year of the new SAT, we have recommended students to take the SAT with the essay at least once, but with a lot of the schools aren't looking at the essay. But again, if you already know what your list is, all of this information is on the admissions page, so you can rule out if you have to take the essay or not. But we always just kind of err on the side of caution and recommend that you take it with the essay, but again, only once, because it's just a very small component. Schools will super score your score, so we always recommend that students take the SAT more than once. So for instance, the student may did better in evidence-based reading, and then they did better in math in October. So they do take the highest score from each one. We don't recommend students take the SAT more than 2 times unless they've taken a prep course. Your scores don't change really at all without a prep course, but we do see a difference, especially usually the second time around after taking the SAT. So they do super score, they do take your highest score, they automatically do that. There's also the subject test. Again, not a lot of our students do take the subject test just because a lot of the schools don't require it. The subject test can be, chemistry, biology, U.S. history, but again, it's not required for a lot of our schools. But it is always an option to take it, and this would be in addition to taking the SAT. But again, not a lot of schools make it mandatory for admissions. The SAT is also another standardized test. It does include the science component, so some students that are strong in science do better with the ACT. The score is different. It's up to 36. A lot of students at West take the ACT. It seems to be more popular. But schools will usually give you the option to take the SAT or the ACT. So you can take one or, and if you do better in the ACT, you can just submit those scores to those schools. As Ms. Fairley said, a lot of our schools are going test optional. I think right now in Massachusetts there's about 38 schools that are test optional. Some of the schools will have a caveat that you need a certain GPA to be test optional. But if they say it's test optional, you don't have to submit your scores. Once you submit your scores to those schools, then the schools will review it. So if you do submit it to a school, they will count that towards admission. So, so it's not a test. They're not trying to trick you. So if the school really does look at a student's transcript. It's 4 years over the course of 4 hours on a Saturday. So. So again, a lot of schools are going more of the test optional routes, and I'm sure more schools next year will absolutely be added to the list. We did give you a handout of all of the test dates that are coming up in the future. Just something to keep in mind, the June SAT is graduation, so that may not be a good test date. Also, the August SAT date doesn't seem to be the best day for our students. Some of their scores seem to be actually the worst. So I would advise against the August SAT. Students that are going to early action, they should definitely do the October SAT, but if at all possible, I would avoid the August one just because they're in summer mode. And again, the scores just really usually aren't that great. But we do have a list of all of those dates, so just kind of, it does come up very quickly, so just trying to plan it out accordingly.
Are they listed on a college board?
Yes, all of those are listed on the college board. If some of you are in AP classes, those are in May. So, so maybe the June SAT would be better just because May can be very stressful. Also, if your student did take the PSATs, they have a college board account. So it's important to keep that account, use the same username and password, and register for the SAT that way. If they haven't taken the PSATs, then you would create an account directly with the college board. Any questions for students testing?
Nailed it. This is just a website. If you have a student that may not test strongly, the fairtest.org is a great website. It gives a list of all the schools that are test optional. So if you want to take a peek at that, if you feel like your student may not do so well on the SATs or ACTs, this is a great, there's a bunch of schools on this list, and they're adding to it so frequently just because a lot of schools are going to test optional now. So take a peek at the fairtest.org. Another point to Ms. McGinnis's testing talk. If your students took the PSATs, they have a College Board account, but they also have access to what's called Khan Academy, and that is a great free practice tool that they can use to help them prepare for the SATs. So it's standard towards how they answered on the SAT. So any weaknesses they showed on the PSAT, they're going to get a personalized practice test for them, how they did on the PSAT. So a lot of our students don't do it, which is so frustrating because we're like, use Khan Academy, it'll help you. But if you could totally just, push that, it will totally help raise their scores. They say if you do 20 hours of practice on Khan Academy, the average amount of points that it can go up is about 100. So, yes.
K-A-H-N?
K-H-A-N, and it's on the College Board website.
I think there's a flyer in the folder as well about it.
All right.
Is it
Now, yep.
too late for the PSATs?
Yeah, so the PSATs only happen once a year, and that's in October. But that's okay because your student is going to be taking the SAT more than once. So once they get a test in there, Khan Academy will develop that based on their first test, and then they can do better for their second test. Any more questions on SAT? I get to do the fun stuff, so you guys are going to get really excited in 2 minutes.
We get
Yeah.
and is the highest score on an SAT the 1600?
Yes. So each section is 800 per piece. Yeah. Any other question? Yeah.
Just on the subject of tests, because I noticed we're towards the end of that. What does the school offer as far as ASVAB, things like that, for like civil service exam?
We don't offer anything particularly here.
Okay.
We would say contact a recruiter or anything.
Yeah.
But we do have recruiter cards in the guidance office if you
Okay.
feel like you want to fill that up. Any other questions? Great. All right. So this is actually a poster in Ms. McGinnis's office. It's just to show you that there are 300 colleges in your backyard. So we want you to visit schools, whether your child wants to go to California and study or Florida and be warm. It's still important to go to colleges, and you have plenty of options here. So like I said, if they want to go far away, still go to a college campus here, because you can say, this is what a city campus looks like, this is what a suburban campus looks like, this is what a big school looks like, this is what a small school looks like. So they can see what types of schools they might want to go to, even if it's far away. So just keep in mind, there's a college for everyone, and there's 300 just in New England. So as we said before, it's so important to visit, get a feel for the campus, and see what your students like and dislike. Getting into it, when you're developing a list, it's important to pay attention to the things that Ms. Ferrioli pointed out. When you're developing a list, you want it to be balanced. So you want to have those reach schools where your GPA may be lower than their average acceptance. You want to have those safety / realistic / target, they all mean the same thing, where you're about their average in SAT and GPA. And then you want to have those safety schools. So like I said, it's all about the balance. You need to make sure that you have a couple of each. And I'm going to show you a tool in a second in Naviance, the program that we've been all talking about, that's going to help your students develop that list. Like I said, research, it's a ton of research, but it starts now. That's why we want to get the students to think about it in January and not in September when they walk in the door and they're like, I don't know where I want to go to school. And we're like, deadlines are coming up, so we got to do this quickly. So we can't stress enough the research. Usually students apply to 4 to 8 schools, but that can vary. You don't want to apply to a ton of schools because application fees are so expensive. The minimum application fee now is $50. So 50 times 10, not a math person, but $500, right? So it's kind of a lot of money for just applications, right? So that's why the research is so important. So you don't want your students just throwing schools on their list just because their friends are applying there, or you want to make sure that they will go there, they like it, and it's a good fit for them. So like I said, well balanced, 1 reach, 2 targets, 1 likely in safety. That's kind of what we're looking for, okay? If your student comes to me and I see all schools that their GPA is lower than the average, I'm going to send them back to the drawing board and say, you need to come back to me and give me a couple more safety schools. And if they can't think of it, we can provide them with ideas, but we don't know what your students really want in the school. So they need help in terms of giving us some information as to, do I want a big school, do I want a small school, do I want a school in the city? So that's why the research is so important. Factors when considering a school, location. Does your student want to be a car ride away or a plane ride away? So that's something that you as a family can discuss, and if you want, if they want to go far, that's definitely a family decision. Size of school is also big. So a school like UMass Amherst, your student will be sitting in a lecture hall of 500 kids, and there'll be a number, and you take attendance by clicking something on the ceiling. The teacher may not even know your name. Whereas a smaller school like Curry, you may be in a school class similar to what you see at Abington High School. There's pros and cons to each, and different students fit in at different places. So there's nothing right or wrong about what size your student chooses. It's just what they feel comfortable in. Other things that I want to get into, I'm going to show you on the program called Naviance. So I'm going to get out of the PowerPoint right now, and I'm going to show you some really cool tools that we are going to be showing your students that will help them kind of develop their list and start to get this research going. All right, so last year, as we said, we created Naviance accounts with your students, and we did a career interest inventory, which they answered a bunch of different questions about their likes, dislikes, what they're good at, their weaknesses, and it developed a list of potential careers based on their answers. They can still access those. We often tell the students that they have no idea, go back to that survey and you can see the careers, and then you can link it to a type of major, and then you can see what schools have that major. So Naviance can do a lot of different things. It's just a matter of getting the students to actually utilize it. To that point, when we had them create a username and password, we told them to use their school email and their password, their school password. Not sure if they all use that and follow that advice, but you can always ask your student what their Naviance account is, and if they don't remember because they haven't logged in since sophomore year, they can come see us. We can see what their username is, and then we can also reset their password. Okay, so I created a dummy account today for Abby Abington, so I'm just gonna log in. So this is Abby. She is a junior at Abington High School. I gave her a 2.8 GPA and I think 1,000 SAT scores. So that will come into play in a second when I show you some of the features. But just keep in mind, Abby is like a B- student, average SAT scores. So I'm going to walk you through some of the features that your student will see when they get in here. So the first thing that I want to show you is there's a college search tool. So when you get into Naviance, there's a couple tabs at the top. On the top tab, it says colleges. And you're going to scroll down to find your fit. And I like to do the advanced college search. You can do any of these options. This is just my preference. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer a few of these categories. And after I answer some of them, it's going to generate a list of schools that match my preferences. I don't want to answer every single question because then it will get so selective that there might not be a school that has all of my requirements that I'm looking for. So I'm just going to answer a couple for right now. So I'm looking for a 4-year school. At this point, I'm not going to answer public or private because that really doesn't matter to me right now. I don't know what financial aid is going to give me, so the cost of school I'm not sure, so I'm just going to leave that blank. I don't really know if I want to be in a city or a small town, so I'm also going to leave that blank. And I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to hit next. Then it brings me to location. So I know that I want to stay in New England, close enough to be away, but also close enough to get home if I need to. I'm going to scroll down and hit next. You can also do single states if you feel like your student only wants Massachusetts or only wants California. You can do that as well. Students, so this is how big the school is. I'm not really sure how big I want. I don't know if I want a big school or a small school, so I'm going to skip that. Also, I never really answer the admission criteria, so that's something I'm just going to skip over for right now. If your student is interested in playing college athletics, they have the option to designate what division they want to play, and they can designate what sport they would like to play. So if that is something that your student is interested, they can totally do that. I'm going to go to majors. So here, I'm going to type in computer programming. I'm going to hit go. Let me try something else, computer science. There we go. So I'm going to select computer science. I'm going to hit add selected as my selected major. And now I feel like I have kind of a gist of what I'm looking for. So I'm going to hit this box that says view matches. So as you can see, there are 97 matches, you can see that right here, that are in New England that have a computer science program that are 4-year schools. I don't think I selected any other requirements, so this is a good place for your students to start. If you want to look more into a school, for example, I'm going to click on Becker. It brings me to Becker Naviance profile page. It can give me information on deadlines. It can do the average acceptance rate, which I'm going to show you another cool feature on that in a second. If you scroll down, it can kind of give you a quick view of how you would rate when you apply to that school. So GPA, it's looking like it's a good match. SAT scores, fair. You can improve a little bit. Didn't take the ACT, so there's no information on that. And your overall average to apply and get acceptance to school is fair. There's a more in-depth visual that I'm going to show you in a second that will pinpoint where your student falls compared to other students. But this is just a broad look at it. So this is what a profile page on Naviance looks like, and you can click to see. It's a smaller size school. Undergraduate enrollment is around 1,500. Class size is 16:1. So it gives you a lot of information just on this one page. If your student is seriously considering, oh yeah, this looks good for me, you can click this heart right here and turn it red, and then that's going to bring you to a thing called Colleges I'm Thinking About. So let's just pretend Abby Abington already started this college search process, and she added schools to the college I'm thinking about. And because I put that heart next to Becker, it's right here. So that's how you would start adding schools to the Colleges I'm Thinking About list. This piece of Naviance is like your child's electronic notebook to the college process. So it has information, it has the list of schools that they're thinking of, it has how to send an application, whether it's a Common App, as Ms. Varela was talking about. The CA means it's a Common App school. If you see a stamp there, that means they're old-fashioned and they like it mailed. And there are rarely any more mailing, but there are some, like Mass Maritime. If your computer screen has nothing in it, that means it's just a regular application that you apply on that school's website. So they're not necessarily a Common App school. Other things on this Colleges I'm Thinking About screen, it tells you deadlines. So for example, Curry has an early action deadline of December 1st. You can change that if you're not interested in early action to the regular decision deadline. So once your students have like their finalized list, you can see their deadlines and it's all right there. So they need to use this. Another cool feature from here, so let's just say this is your students' list and you want to get like a quick snapshot of how they would match up to the colleges they're thinking about. There's a tool called Compare Me. So there's this little blue link up here, Compare Me. And this is comparing their statistics, so their GPA, their SAT, to the average GPA and SAT of each school. So I'm going to click that now. And just to back up, just so that you all know, all the data in Naviance program is data based on Abington High School students. So it's not national data, it's Abington data, which is so much more accurate because it will show your students and you what a typical student from Abington did in comparison to if they got accepted or denied, if they're meeting their expectations, that sort of thing. All right, so Compare Me. So if you look at this GPA column, you'll see some of them have green check marks and some of them have red X's. So the green check marks means they're meeting or they're at or above their school, that school's average GPA. So for Becker, things are looking good in the GPA category. SAT, they can improve. Actually, no, just kidding. They're doing good with SAT as well. So we're looking at the combined 1600 score. But for Bridgewater, they're a little bit below the GPA and a little bit below the SAT. So that just means, you know, slightly improve on their SAT scores. Like I said, we have students who have below the average that also get in. There are other factors that come into play. But like I said, the Compare Me is just a quick snapshot of, you know, how they're doing with compared to that school. Going back to the colleges I'm thinking about, another great tool is called the scattergram. So when you're in this field and you click on more, it says scattergram. And this is such a cool feature that's going to show your students if it's a target, reach, or safety school. So all of the plots on this graph are students from Abington who have applied to Bridgewater State University. The red check marks are students who are accepted. The green check marks, students who are accepted. The red X's are students who are denied, and the blue circles were students who are waitlisted. Your student, once their SAT scores are inputted into the Naviance program, will be represented as like a blue dot. Okay, so a lot of students from Abington apply here. That's why this graph is so populated. But this student is around a lot of green check marks. Yes, they're slightly below the average GPA, and yes, they're slightly below the average SAT, but it looks good because a lot of students from Abington with a similar profile got into this school. So that's why we want students to look at this, because sometimes they'll see the average GPA and SAT and get discouraged. But if they see, you know, students like me who've taken the same courses and have a similar GPA and SAT have gotten in, that might give them some hope, okay? Ideally, safety schools, you want to be outside of the box. So all of these students, we would say, yeah, Bridgewater is a safety school for you. If you're hovering around this line with where the average GPA and SAT meet, we'd say it's probably a match, realistic target school. Inside the box where you see the red X's, we'd say that's a reach school. Any questions on the scattergram plot? Do we like it?
Yeah.
To do this in general, Mike doesn't have a clue what she wants to do yet.
Yeah.
So is any of this relevant for her? If she's
Oh,
not
yeah.
gonna pick what she wants?
You don't
Or
have
she's
to,
interested
the
in?
majority of our kids apply undecided.
Okay.
So don't worry about if they don't know what they want to do yet. And the majority of our kids, once they go to school, change their mind after they start taking classes. So it's really, you don't need to know what you want to major in. And I feel like if you can stress that to your students, because they get so like stressed out about, I need to know, I need an idea. Because maybe their friend has always known that what they wanted to do. They really don't need to know. That's what college is all about. They need to experience different types of classes. We don't have a lot of different options here. We're a small school. So once they get into a bigger school with a college environment, they're going to be taking so much more classes, and it's going to spike their interest, and then they're going to find their path. So yes, this program, even if it can just help your son or daughter narrow down where they want to go. It doesn't matter what, you don't have to put in a major if you don't want to. You can put in location, you can put in size, you can put in any activities that they're interested in. This program can do all of that. Other questions? Did I hit on all the features? Yeah? All right.
And I'll piggyback on that about like, my child doesn't know what they want. You know, the data in here is general admissions data, so even though Ms. Sweeney plugged in computer science, that's not meaning a computer science major acceptance rate. It's general. So, like she said, you could put in undecided or not put in a major and still use the Naviance feature. And again, that's why visiting schools is great, because for students that really don't know, like you had said, there may be some majors we don't even know about, or there might be a student giving a tour that said, well, I thought I'd want to major in this, but here's what I did, and their story might straightforward with somebody, you know, and you might go, God, that sounds cool. I didn't know that was a thing. I think I might, you know, and so once you explore some of these colleges, and maybe there's a college that has a couple things, those are the schools you want to investigate. You know, you don't have to be targeted so much, so, yeah.
Is there a tuition?
I think there is a tab, yeah, I think there's a feature to look up for each college. You can look at what the tuition is. And we caution students though that Naviance is only as good as what the colleges report to it. It's like a clearinghouse, it's a data collector. So you can use we have students use Naviance in this introductory and kind of getting a feel for the search, and it's a good way to keep track of everything, but always look at the school websites too, because that's going to be your hard data. Here's what the tuition is that we just posted this year. The schools' websites are going to be more updated, but you can find, I think if you open
It's
up,
here.
yeah, right there, costs. Yep.
Just another feature that I forgot to add when I was doing the college search, you can save your college searches. So if you fill out the form, then you want to go back to it, at the top after you finish the list it says save search. Just type in a quick name, whether it's you want to name it by major or location or whatever, or first search. You can save it and always go back to that search if you wanted to. Last thing, just so that you're aware of what we did with them last year, the surveys that we did in terms of the career interest inventory are under this career tab. And last year, I think we did Do What You Are. We do different surveys with them.
And then the career.
And career interest profiler. So I didn't have Abington do a survey. So I can't technically show you what it would populate, but ask your students and they can show you what survey they did and their results, yeah.
So can they retake it? Like, can they?
I don't think they can retake it, but there's different types of surveys in there that they can do another one.
That might like
Not
generate
the
some
same
different
one.
answers or something, or
Yeah.
different check marks.
What the survey did was it was more of a profiler, so it clumped, so maybe a student finished their survey and it gave, maybe they were interested in education or business or finance, and it gave different clusters, and the clusters that were at the top of the list are better matches based on, so maybe they thought they were interested in education, but now they're thinking business. That still could be on their list. Do you know what I mean? There still could be varied clusters.
Yeah.
You know, some kids had like really a wide range of things, like why did this pop up on my survey? I mean, I think, you know, that happens when they take these profiles, but they can click on, if they see certain careers, they can click on the career, and Naviance will pull a list up of all the schools in the country that have that major. Like what, you know, here's the career, here's what majors you would take to do that,
that's
and then click on the major, and here's all your colleges. So there's a lot of links. Anytime you see like blue lettering in the Naviance account, it's a link to something else. So I mean, you could play all day with it, so.
If they click on, say, like, in medicine or whatever, is there something like they could click on and it's gonna give you a list of, you know, or,
Yeah, let's say there's a major, let's say it's accounting, and they clicked on the major of accounting. It would list all of the schools in the country that have accounting.
or would it list careers?
Yeah,
Or would
there's,
it-
yep,
yeah.
under the career profile, under like accounting, it would show, there's some tabs, the kids liked it where, it showed them like what the average wages are throughout the country for that career, and, what kind of schooling you would need to do that job. Would you need a 4-year degree? Would you need more technical training? And so it kind of, we did that with them last year, so you could kind of see what careers were, what kind of schooling you would need, preparation, do you need would you need a master's degree to do certain jobs? So, yes, there's a lot of data and info on careers in there.
You can just type in a career and look it up, and it will populate
Yeah.
a lot of different
I
information.
just have a question on the GPAs. So the GPA seems to be an important piece in getting in, but ours are not weighted, correct? So our GPA, if you have an A in an honors class, is the same as an A in a college prep class. So what's the benefit of taking the higher level classes if your GPA?
So
Is it they
most
look at the whole
colleges will
transcript?
recalculate.
Okay.
So when we submit the transcript to a college and the information about our transcript, we let the colleges know that our GPA is unweighted.
Okay.
So that if they get a transcript from another high school that is weighted, they know that there's a difference. So they won't be penalized because their GPA isn't as high. What most colleges do is they recalculate all of the transcripts, so it's all apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. So most colleges, for example, all of the state universities follow the same formula. If your child takes a level 1 class, so an honors class, and they have an 84 average in that class, let's say they got an 84 in English and it's honors, that's a 3.0, unweighted. If it's level 1, a state college will add 0.5 to that, so it becomes a 3.5, and then goes back into the formula. If it's an AP class, a full point is added. So a 3.0 or an 84 average in an AP class becomes a 4.0. So all the colleges will use, all the state colleges will use that exact same formula where an honors gets a 0.5 bump or an AP gets a 1 bump. Other colleges use similar formulas. So yes, they will see that your student took more rigorous courses and they'll give them that weighting.
And is that separate from them taking the AP, like, placement test, right?
Yeah, the AP test is a separate test. That score is sent to colleges for either to give them credit for a course or to give them the requirement filled so they can take the next level course. So that's separate than taking the AP level course on the transcript. Yeah.
So just to wrap it up, review your college choices with your son or daughter, visit schools. As you said, that's probably the most important piece so that they can get a sense of what they like and don't like. Discuss as a family, finances are huge. It's a big ticket item, so you want to make sure that, your child is aware of the cost, you're aware of the cost. Know your son and daughter's strengths and weaknesses and try to help them navigate through this process. Talk through any changes, schedule a time to discuss important information opposed to doing it every day because they are going to get so annoyed if you ask them about college every day like we do. So it's good to just say like, okay, Saturday we're going to talk about college and then I'm going to leave you alone for 2 weeks or maybe more. Assist your child with the applications, but don't do it for them. They really need to be the ones filling it out. There is a section on the application where a lot of the information is about you, so you can help them with that part, but we are trying to make your students independent. They're going to be going away and living on their own and starting to become adults and making these decisions on their own. So yes, you can help them, but don't do it for them. We really need to have them start taking accountability and ownership to get these applications done on their own. Any questions?
So we gave you a lot of information. Your head's probably spinning, but and it is a lot of information. But we don't want you to be overwhelmed. Please access us. Like I said, we have our business cards are up at the front, so you can take whose card you need for your guidance counselor. Please email us. Please call us. Make appointments with us. We're happy to see you and help you answer any of your questions. We know it's most of your first time going through this. It's not our first time, so we are used to the questions. And we usually can get the information pretty quick for you. If we don't have it right away, we can get it for you. So we'll stick around for any other personal questions, but I thank you all for coming and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.